I think you're live.
Oh,
Welcome everybody. Episode 1 of Talk Horror to Me. Um, my name is Matt. I'm joined with Chrissy,
hello.
and we are going to review the movie Boar that was released in 2017, 2018, depending on when you viewed it. I think it was 2017 theatrical, and then I think it was 2018 streaming. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty.
2019 streaming,
So
December
it went.
in 2019, but it came out in
Okay.
December of 2017.
Yeah, I had. That's what I was gonna say. I had a hard time figuring that out because there's. I found multiple years. The earliest I found was 2017. So I didn't know if they started production in 2017 or if it was like
Right.
actual theatrical in 2017. So, um, but yeah, we're gonna go ahead and talk about and review Boar today, which I think we both watched through Shudder. But
Yep.
it seems like it's available on tons of different streaming services if you want to watch that. Um, and then should we just start with the trailer? Go
Yeah.
through let the trailer. Let's see the
Refreshed my
trailer.
brain.
Consider it refreshed.
Okay, cabin fever is officially set
So, and
in.
really
I
quickly
suggest the
too,
next
a
town we come
completely
to is pull over
Australian
and get some grub.
film.
Sounds great.
Although at first you can't really tell because the accents are kind of confusing. Like I thought there was like no accent, like kind of sounding like, oh, it kind of sounds like we're in America. But then it sounded kind of Irish. But then you're in Australia.
Yeah, yeah, and
Actually, those first 5 minutes of talking were probably my least favorite part of the whole movie.
oh really?
Hmm.
Oh, the car ride?
Yeah, and then that like first scene with the terrible CGI. All the other effects were awesome except for that.
Okay, I I mean I agree with you. I think the like family melodrama y stuff was like, why bother? But I
Yeah,
guess when you've got this kind of horror movie, you're like, we gotta fill it with something, and that just happens to be what it was filled with. What was interesting, there were two people that immediately stood out to me in this movie. I went in completely blind. I looked up nothing about it, and there were two people that I was like, oh shit, I know that guy. I think is from something, and I looked him up and I was correct. The big brother, the big muscly brother guy, which I don't even know if he's in the trailer. We'll see if he's in this trailer because I'm not sure if they even show him in here. He is in Mad Max Fury Road.
okay.
Yeah, he is one of the main villainy
Yep,
guys. He's like the
yep.
son. He kind of has a leather mask thing on
Okay,
a
I can
majority of the time.
picture him in my head.
Oh, he's got the respirator thing in his nose. Yeah. So he is in that. So I was like, oh, okay, that is that guy. And then the dad, that is the dad of the family, the one American English actor in this movie that doesn't have an Australian accent.
Yep.
Um, he is well versed in horror, and he is in the Rob Zombie trilogy, The House of a Thousand Corpses,
Oh,
um,
really?
The Devil's Rejects, everything. Yeah, he's like
What
the
is he in that?
main. He's the main brother with the long
Yeah.
hair. Yeah.
Whoa,
So
totally did not recognize him at all.
it's the you know what it is. It's the voice, and the reason it's the voice is because his voice reminds me so much, so freaking much of and his name's escaping me now. The actor, he was on SNL for a long time. He plays MacGruber. He's Last Man on Earth was the show that he was in.
Oh, I can picture his face
Yes, you could picture. Great,
and I
perfect.
can hear his voice.
I'm gonna have to look that up now, but um, his voice sounds so much like that, and
Okay,
I
yeah,
always have
yeah,
a
yeah.
really hard time. Will Forte. I
Yes.
have a I have a really hard time, really hard time, um, seeing him as anybody else other than Will Forte in horror movies. I
Thank
feel
you,
like
because now that is going to be me as well, because I
I
can
just
picture it so perfectly. That's absolutely correct.
I just see like and it was so funny watching the Rob Zombie stuff because it's like Will Forte, the axe murderer. It's like it doesn't make, I don't know.
Actually,
It,
makes perfect sense.
it could, he does. But more than ever now, the way that he's like trimmed up and clean cut in this movie, he looks a lot like Will Forte. So that's the only thing I can see. So anyway, that those are the two main standout people. And I don't watch a lot of Australian films, but a lot of Australian films typically cast Australian people. It's the easiest thing. They're not going to fly people overseas to go act in their movie. So it's usually pretty, a stretch for me to recognize somebody in there.
Yeah.
But you know what? I mean, there's two people that I recognize in this one, and it is what it is. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think of where we want to dive into. I'm thinking this is just like a spoiler. It's like we don't need to not spoil it, do we? Or
No,
should we?
we're gonna discuss the movie in
Okay,
detail.
we'll discuss the movie in
So if
detail.
you don't want to hear it, maybe like watch it first and
Don't listen to our no.
right. Come back though, like
Pause.
if we want to talk about it.
Pause it. Go watch the movie and then come back. And then while it's fresh in your brain, you can follow along with us, and
And then like tell us if you agree or not, because
you can nod along and agree with every opinion we had on it because we obviously knew we were right. So, yeah.
I'm less confident, but I'm excited nonetheless.
Do you want to give a? Do you then want to give a brief synopsis of the story of Boar? What story
You want me to give the
exists?
synopsis?
Just give your like gut book report breakdown of what this story entails for Boar.
The back book cover, like just the like
Yeah.
in a nutshell what this book is about.
Yes.
When you're not judging the book by the cover, but what's written on the cover instead.
There you go.
So,
I'm an inside flap man. I usually open it up and read but that's.
I am a copyright page girl. Any book I read, the first thing I do, I like look at the front and back, and then I open it up to the copyright, and I look at the publisher, the year, where it was published. I look if it has a Library of Congress number in it. Like I really read that page. Yeah.
That's so that page is for you. I'm pretty sure that's Chrissy's page. They don't do that for anybody else.
Yeah, it gives you insight into when was this piece of work created.
Okay, now that we got that out of the way,
Anyways,
Boar.
Okay, so the back cover of this book. So you're in Australia, and there's this family. It's like a stepdad and the mom, and a son and a daughter and daughter's boyfriend, and they're crude, but likable. And they're going through this town. They stop somewhere. The boyfriend continues to show what a just trash human he is, and then we meet this other family who the guy's like, whoa, that girl's hot. And he's like, wait, I know this family. And they're going to see their brother. Boom, we meet brother. And they're like doing all this family stuff. But in the meantime, we're seeing these scenes of a boar killing people.
There's a rampage.
Who will be next?
Yeah.
And that was giving you a lot of upfront and leaving a lot out.
I think summed up, it's basically a family going on a camping trip, and because it's kind of I guess it's like kind of a camping trip.
Were they camping, or were they going to stay with the brother, and the brother's like, let's go camping, or were they always?
He's
camping?
like, we're in this wonderful safe abode that wilderness and danger could not affect us, so let's take a day to go out into the dangerous wilderness. Basically, what happens, and you're right. It's very much so. It has two streams happening. There's the family that is working up towards getting with the brother, going out, having a day of leisurely activities, and then there's a just murderous rampage that is taking place by a ginormous boar, ripping people up along the way to meeting this family.
And honestly, I think that because I always try to like categorize things, and so I'm like, okay, what category of horror would this be? And ultimately, I'm like, well, this is like a creature feature, right? Like an animal one, though, like when animals kind of thing, because it's like you don't have a villain necessarily. None of the people are like bad. You just know the characters living their lives, interacting with each other, and then in this same space there's this animal that's just randomly killing things, because it doesn't seem to have an agenda necessarily other than kill anything it comes across.
Yeah. It's murder boar for sure. And it's I will say it's not just like the picture kind of like doesn't do it justice, and I don't think we really said it. It's a big
It's
boar.
a it's
It's
a
a
huge
it's
like it's
it's the size of a truck.
right. It's
You
very
know?
large. Like it's
Yes.
not just like, oh my gosh, this is an aggressive pig. It's like, nah, this is like weird creature that is not normal.
Yeah.
And they're talking about it. The people in town are like, oh yeah, there was a wild boar. And this guy at the bar tells a story of seeing the boar with a woman in its mouth.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
they're not doing anything because they
There,
think the guy's drunk and crazy and old.
yeah, there's rumblings throughout the town that something's going on. That there's some
And in the
sort of animal attack.
meantime, the
Yeah.
barkeep's dad is out there.
I guess he's camping. He's like sitting around a campfire with one of his buddies, kind of thing. Um, and yeah, they let's just say they encounter this creature early
Well,
on, and
it's
this is
because they had to save the campers.
it's the first. I think it's kind of the first real look that you get of it, though, right? Like from it shows the silhouette, but
Yeah.
it's like the first real look of it. So
So when I was taking notes of the deaths, I wrote down if you saw it or not. And we didn't actually see it until the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th person it kills.
oh, okay. So five deaths in. I'm curious on the time because I will say this about the boar. Um, they do get to a point that once it's revealed, they show it to you. It is not one. Here's what I was honestly thinking going into this. I at the kind of early on in the film, you sort of see like the tusks, the head, and stuff like that, and it's a practical effect. Like so, somebody had to build this head, right? And all I could think was, okay, low budget Australian horror film. They spent the money on making a boar head, and every kill is just going to be a giant head in frame, stabbing somebody, biting somebody, whatever. Like that's all you're gonna see. You're gonna see the head, and that's it. And if you see anything else, it's gonna be a silhouette or in the dark or shadow or whatever, and it'll be CG. Nope, they built a full size practical effect of this boar. It's huge. It's
A giant
beautiful.
size.
Yeah, it's giant. It's beautiful. And I was reading an article, like in an interview between the director, and it sounds like they spent a ton of money on this. They did not disclose how much money they spent on the actual boar, but it was a multiple manned creature. They said they had like 3 to 4 people at times inside of that to do everything to inside the boar to kind of move it and do everything they needed to do. Um, and I thought it looked fantastic. I was honestly truly surprised as to how much detail went into that, but at the same time, I was also thinking like there's not really much else to this film from a production budget standpoint. A lot of it takes place in plains
Hmm.
or forests or wooded areas, which are
Like
your
out in the open, you're not really
yes,
in anything.
it's your cheapest possible settings you could have. One of the areas that I know that they're at a house, I think it's the brother's house, that is kind of like a farmhouse.
Hmm.
Apparently, that is the same house, the same farm that was used in one of the director's prior movies, and it's
Okay.
called something Farm. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my
Charlie's.
head.
It was in
Is it
the preview. Charlie's
Charlie's
Farm.
Farm? Yes, Charlie's Farm. So there is a movie called Charlie's Farm. It's the same farm, same house, whatever, which usually means they know the guy that owns a house, and they're
Yeah,
like,
like, hey, get a movie.
can we shoot on your back patio? We need, whatever shots. So I think, like, you look at it, so from a budget perspective, they're not spending a lot of money on stuff.
Mm.
It's so to pretty much blow your wad on the boar makes sense in a movie called Boar. Um, so I was happy with that, and I will say here I'll swip it over to the info slide.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, so it what I saw from an estimated budget standpoint was about 3.5 mil. I think it was like 3.4 mil, which makes sense for a small movie like this. The amount of people that were involved, there's probably a cast of, I don't know, 20 people total.
yeah.
Some are definite throwaway, no name characters or whatever that are there just to be murder, meat piles. But um, for that many people, for the locations that they had, marketing, animatronic, everything, that kind of like makes sense to me. That's a fair budget. Now, I you know, story is a different question. I loved the Boar. The story or lack thereof, in my opinion, was like, what are we doing? Like, I get it, but this is very much so. I mean, you've phrased it. It's a creature feature. It's basically the first 30 minutes you're catching a whiff of this thing and watching a couple murders happen. Then for the next 30 minutes, you kind of get more murders and work to the reveal, and then the last 30 minutes it's just blood and gore until the thing's done.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, go ahead. I'll take a
So,
breather.
so yes, the special effects of the boar were amazing. And it wasn't just like the boar itself, it was how they would do the whole scene. Like when I said the first 5 minutes were my least favorite of the movie, it's because they had graphic effects in that part, like where like computer ones where the all the boars running through and they were sitting in the
Oh
car.
yeah.
It, like those were fake and they looked really bad and I wasn't feeling the couple because I'm just like, where are we? And then it was great from there on. But the scene that was my favorite, because whenever I watch movies that I'm like, I need to get into this and like really be like, what would I be like in this situation? And then it makes it scarier for me because I'm like, oh my gosh, I would probably do the same dang thing because I would be like so freaked out. And then it really like makes that like feel more real and like you feel the fear more, even if the movie itself isn't like the best thing, you can still get the fear out of it, which is why I like to watch scary movies. And so the scene where the guy couldn't find his dog, he's just some farmer who's only in that scene. Do you remember this? And he
Oh
goes
yeah.
out and he gets his leg caught in the barbed wire fence
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
he's like trying to crawl away. And
Yeah.
it's like, that idea of like you could so easily just trip and get caught like he did and then put yourself in that position where like he could easily have gotten away, but no, he's like trapped there and he can hear this thing coming and they have like the breath of it and then they have like the fog coming in of him like breathing over it. And like when you really think of it as like, oh my gosh, what if that was me and this big ass boar just like came upon me and I'm stuck here? I would
Oh
be
yeah.
terrified. And that was probably like my favorite kill scene, even though you don't actually see the kill at that point.
Yeah. What's kind of interesting too is a lot of people. I could see people being like, oh, boar or a pig or whatever. Like, oh, come on. I honestly, Arizona, there's a lot of javelina there, and up north
Animals are scary.
yeah, where we used to stay, javelinas, they're typically can't see. They're pretty good at hearing, but they can't see. And man, if they feel threatened, they will charge you. And it's not just
Mm.
one charging you; there's a bunch charging you. And those things will eat anything. They'll trample anything. They'll headbutt anything. Like they don't care. And so when you've got one the size of an F-250, an F-350 pickup truck charging at you, like I kind of get it. Overall, overall, I don't think this was not like a chilling horror. This was
No,
definitely a
you have
gore
to really
fest.
like put yourself in the this is a scary kill scene.
Yeah, yeah. It was a gore fest. To me, it was a very fun watch. It was a fun horror that I was like,
And it
oh
wasn't
heck
like
yeah,
icky gore. It was like, dang, that's what it would look like
yeah.
gore.
Probably. I mean, that's a good way to put it. It's not just like, uh, there was no silliness, I should say, to
No,
the
it
gore
wasn't
in itself.
cheesy or campy. It was
Yeah.
like realistic.
It was like if a giant boar went out and attacked a person, that's what it would look like. What I thought was so funny though, I always laughed at this. There were so many scenes where it's kind of people are like, quietly in an area looking around or worried about something, and then out of nowhere, there's this giant charging boar 2 feet
Yep.
away, and it's like the stealthiest, quietest, ginormous, boar can somehow just teleport into full speed from no sound to all the sound. And it's
Yeah.
like, how does nobody know this thing is coming? You know, it goes from
Why is it so bloodthirsty, and what is it doing there, and how did it get so big?
yes,
These are questions we'd never get
we
answers to,
never
and
get
nobody
answers to.
asks them either, because
Never get
they're
answers.
literally just trying to survive. And actually, I didn't really like the boyfriend, but then they like cheesily, really, in a way, drew you into this family of like you kind of care about them, but you don't really care about them because you're kind of annoyed by them. But then it's kind of like, sure, like the conversation between the boyfriend and the stepdad about who's gonna propose, and the guy's just like, no, don't. And then that's when they die, and
Yeah, and it's
like
completely out of the
I
blue.
feel bad for the boyfriend because
Yeah.
he's like trying to save the other people. He's like, run, run, and then he dies.
Yeah. Well, and that that whole scene, that sequence to me was really interesting because this movie, I planned it out. I'm like, I wonder how long this is gonna go, because it's a little bit of a day in the life. I think it takes place really over 2 days, because it's like daytime,
Okay.
nighttime, and then there's the nighttime murders. And I was thinking like, okay, at night the boar is gonna come out and murder people, right? Like that's the whole
Yeah, you're
that's the whole thing.
right.
And that's what I was gonna think, was that I'm like, again, low budget, nighttime, only made ahead, so you don't want to be able to see things, right? So I'm thinking it's only gonna be nighttime murders, which makes sense for this, but it wasn't. So it was
No.
basically daytime, nighttime murders, daytime with some murders, and then back to nighttime, full murder fest, end of movie. So it's basically 2 days. The movie takes place
But
over the course of 2 days.
are we going to talk about the elephant in the room or the extra large bowl, like boar at the end?
What do you mean? What do you mean? The
Okay,
finale?
I watched this movie twice and I only caught it the second time I watched it. But at the end, when they kill the boar with the car and stuff,
Uh huh.
and they're driving away, and a bigger boar steps out onto the road.
Bullshit. How did I
No,
miss that?
I promise you, I missed
I
it the
was
first time too. No, I promise.
really.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go back and watch
you
that now.
have to.
So I thought, because I was sitting there and I'm like, oh, the boar's just not gonna be dead. I was thinking like this is gonna
No,
drag
it was
on. Like
bigger. It was bigger.
I was just thinking, I was like, this is gonna drag on. Like they're gonna drive away in the car, and all of us, because it was like randomly the two brothers, I guess the brother and the kid were
Yeah,
like,
the
oh,
people who were dead.
they're alive.
No,
they
they
cut
came back,
they
and I
came
was
out
so
from around a
happy.
bush.
I was really sad when the son died.
I know, they should have left him dead. And so yeah, it was just really funny to me that it's like, oh hey, we're still alive. We're just limping behind this bush, and it's like, get in the truck. We're driving into the sunset, baby. You ready for that? And it's like, yep. And I'm like, okay, there's no way that boar's dead. That boar's now gonna charge the truck,
It
and
was
it's gonna keep
bigger.
going. Did not happen. So you're telling me I missed it? Is it in the background, or does it like kind of
No,
come into
it goes
frame?
out on the road, and in my head, I'm like, is it gonna chase them? I thought this
Really?
was over.
Okay, so there's gonna be they let it open for Boar 2.
It's just like the end
Borier.
of Inception.
Even more
Was it
borier.
real? Are we in a dream?
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna watch that again. I did not catch that, and I
Tell
was
me if I'm
watching
wrong,
that movie.
but I guarantee you that's what I remember on watch
You're wrong.
too.
I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong. Okay. So I'd be interested to see it. So I mean, I know we're kind of jumping all over the place. I mean, basically from the start, it definitely hits, you know, kind of campground murders, people out in the wild murders, and it goes that way through the entire film to eventually the point in which the big super strong brother kind of takes this thing on and
Yeah,
stabs the
it
hell out of it, and
him.
then the women finish it off, and that's kind of it. I should say, or a woman finishes it off by ramming it with a giant truck.
Yeah, the barkeep.
The barkeep that was looking for Uncle rams it with a giant truck and leaves it there, bleeding out. One thing I did appreciate, though, is almost every kill that takes place with the boar takes damage. And by the end of that movie, that boar looks beat the hell up. Like,
Yeah.
they kept with it. It wasn't some invincible
Mhm.
creature that just, kept regenerating and, was stronger than ever. So, um, it was interesting to actually watch it die by the end of the film. But it was
Mhm.
pretty abrupt. That movie is just kind of like, hey,
Yeah.
Going 0 to 100, and then like bam, it's over. Sunset Drive,
Yeah. Yeah.
or Sunrise Drive, because it was at night. So maybe they're driving into the sunrise.
Depending on which direction they were going.
I mean, they're Australia. I don't know how the sun or time or magnets work down there. It's different somehow. So, I don't even know. Do they have sunlight down there? But yeah,
I think
so
that's all they have.
they
And spiders
got the
and
big
just
spiders. They got big boar. Everything's bigger in Australia, I guess. That's what I heard.
and deadlier.
Yep, and deadlier, bigger and deadlier, and not as understandable English. But that's more of a jab at Australian speaking habits than it is anything else. But um, yeah, so I don't know. I kind of say, I mean, you look at it here. It says it's an hour and 36 minutes. That's probably 6 minutes of credit time. Just beat the 90-minute mark. For 90 minutes, it didn't necessarily feel like 90 minutes. Pacing is pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking for a fun, just really quick um, monster bash film, this is it. There is a lot of the complaints that I saw. I was reading through the reviews on like Shudder and a couple other
Okay.
places. A
I didn't
lot of
read anything on it
well,
about the
I was gonna
reviews.
try to pull some reviews in here, but I was like, none of this really kind of makes sense. Um, but a lot of people complained about the family melodrama. They're like,
Yeah.
just get rid of the family dynamic because it ultimately goes absolutely nowhere, and just have it as a conflict against this giant boar and survival. And I sort of get that. They probably should have just stuck with that. But I guarantee you, again, every movie is a miracle that it's even made. So trying to figure out how you're going to write a movie or even make it 90 minutes is an extremely difficult feat. So there's got to be some fluff, some filler somewhere. And I think
And
that
where's filler in character development?
in character development, that is right. Developing characters that instantly die by a giant boar tusk getting shoved through their torso. It's like, all right, didn't miss that guy. Bye bye. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was I don't know if we're doing a 1 out of 5, 1 out of 10, 0 to
Right,
hundred
because
percent
like we
scale, but
watched it on Shutter, so we could do it out of skulls, um, as that's
you want
how
to do
they do theirs.
you want to do skulls? How many skulls?
Or
5.
we could make up our own system.
Oh man, what would that system be? Oh, what would be an accurate screams? 1 out of 10
Oh
screams.
heck yeah, I like that.
I
It's
should
like
put
if
that
we
on my
did it real
soundboard so I could
realistic.
do as many screams as we want to rip.
No, we have to do the screams because if we really liked
Oh
it, we
no,
should look a fool.
the screams or squawks. I don't know what they are anymore. Um, sure, we'll do it out of 10 screams so we
Oh,
can
out
get
of 10,
out
that's
of
big.
10.
All
Yeah,
right,
because
is this a matrix with categories, or are we just arbitrarily on our own coming up with how we do it?
oh, we're on our own. We're on our own
Okay,
for sure. Yeah.
I'll make a
Um,
for myself.
I would honestly say, like, I think this is probably in like the 6 to 7 out of 10 range for me. And the reason I say that is it's a competently made film. Pacing's fine, cinematography's fine. The effects and the boar are awesome. There was no like what little CG was actually used was so little and so not noticeable in my opinion as CG that there is zero knocks from an effects standpoint. And so it's really hard for me to say like I like the cinematography, I like the pacing, I like the monster, I like the gore scenes that they had, and but it's not great. It's hard to make that argument. And so I think a lot of it comes down to like the character development, which some of it is why it's questionable. I don't understand. Um, and just get to the murder fest. So I think for me, it's kind of in that like 6 to 7 range. I'll give it a 7. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. I would love to see more boar. I want more boar. I want bigger boar. Give it another 2 mil. Make
You
a.
got it. It was at the end of
I
the
know
movie.
that
You missed it.
I want the Boar the sequel, Borier. I don't know, but more Borer,
More Boar. And
more
then the
Boar.
third one would be Borist.
The Boarist. Oh yeah, they need to do the same exact after they kill Borer. Then they reveal
Borer.
an even bigger boar the same way. It walks into frame, and you're like, oh god, it's a
You have to go
house-sized
to
boar.
IMAX to watch that one.
Oh yes, IMAX format. We should do that. Yeah, that'd be great. But I mean, again, I had fun with it. It was a fun little flick. But you compare, something I would consider a 10 out of 10, like The Thing or something. I mean, it's nowhere near that. You know what I mean? So it's not hot garbage. It's definitely a six or seven. It's a fun Friday night flick. Something to watch while you're chowing down on your Chinese food or burrito or whatever. I had fun doing that. So that's where I'm at. 7 screams. Ah. That's how you're gonna get out.
And cackles. Like, okay. Um,
7 out of 10. Evil butler cackles. That's what I'll rate it as. That's what you get from me.
ooh, you categorized your screams. I liked it. Okay,
That's right.
so I had a lot of similar like praises of the movie. I also liked the cinematography. It was well shot. There was no like, this is a cheap movie. Like, it was a pretty movie to watch. The set, although simplistic, was never like taking away from what was going on. They were able to build an entire story with it, and it was pretty to look at. The sound was really good. I don't recall if there was even music in it, like if there was a soundtrack or
Yeah,
anything. If there was, it didn't stand out to me at all.
yeah, I will complete now that you even mention it, because usually I am so 1000% focused on music because I
Yeah,
just love music so much. I did not even think about it for
yeah,
a second
and
in this movie.
I didn't write anything down about it, and I'm like,
Completely forgettable.
I can't remember. I can't
You
remember.
know, okay, hold on. I do seem not kill your train
No,
of
you're
thought.
fine.
I think it popped into me. There's towards the end where the big muscly brother is kind of fight stabbing the boar.
Yeah,
I seem to remember there being a little bit of a soundtrack. And that was the one time that I was like, "Oh, there is music in this." But I do not seem to recollect any other time in that movie.
no.
Any other time in that movie. Yeah, completely
So
forgettable music.
that's gonna be a detractor for me actually, because it's like whether you like it or not, I would like to remember kind of the music of it because it's like you've got the sound effects, which were good because like with the boar, it had good husky, like it was scary, and then you have like the dialogue, but then there's also like the music part of it, which just I don't remember in any way, and then you have like the costume where it's like were they costumes or were these people kind of just like you're wearing your clothes kind of thing and you're working in this area that this is real. So it's like it looked good because none of it was like that's off. So it just looked very
Yeah.
natural. And
Yeah.
even like the camping scene and stuff, like the set was believable. Like I felt like this could be a realistic thing. And then that's where like the boar comes in. It was still very realistic. The kills were very realistic. It got gory when we actually started seeing some of the deaths and like it scared me a little bit in some scenes. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this a 6. I'm
You're
gonna give
in.
this 6 cackles as well, but
Okay.
by like, the girl who hides her face behind the pillow.
Oh, that one. Okay.
Those are my screams for this one.
All right. What was interesting. I was trying to think about it from a like why this is rated R. And Shutter has it as TVMA, so I don't know if there's.
Okay, I couldn't find the rating anywhere.
Yeah, so I don't. I think it's technically R. I mean,
Okay,
from a gore perspective, there's.
right,
Yeah.
absolutely, because there was
Yeah.
swearing in it. Like they swore pretty often, but there was no nudity or
Yes,
anything.
that's what I was gonna get at. There's no boobies or butts. It's basically swearing and like monster gore. That's it.
It's a good
There's
family horror film.
I mean, they were almost at the boobies and butts time. There was definitely like a, hey,
There were
we're
a
in a
few
tent,
like yeah.
we're about to
Hmm.
get busy, and I was like, oh, here it goes. But nope, They did
Then
not
there was
stoop that
Boar.
low. Yeah, they didn't stoop that low. Instead, they just had a giant monster ripped in the shreds, and that was
Because
great.
again, all of the budget went to the boar, not the
Yes,
actors, to get them to the level where that would be a thing they would do.
that is right. I was really worried about this. I guess one of the ladies that is acting in there, it might be the bartender. It's either the bartender or the mom. I don't know who. It's one of the like housewives of Sydney kind of thing. Like, you know, those trashy like housewives or
I would
whatever.
assume it's the barkeep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking too. She looks the most. I mean, I hate to say this and criticize anybody, but she looks the most did up. Okay, and I think so I read that and I was like, oh no, like this. The stars are kind of aligning for this to be just hot garbage. But after
It was good.
watching, I was like, it all worked. And yeah, I mean, there's some cheesy dialogue. I mean, the biggest knock on it is like cheesy dialogue that it's like, why the hell are we talking about this? But it was fun to watch, in my opinion. It was a solid 90 minutes. If it was 2 hours, I would have said screw it. Do not waste
I
your
don't know.
time.
I watched it twice, so it was 3 hours
So
for me.
you got 3 hours. You got 3 hours out of it. But now imagine that you spent 4 hours watching it twice. So it'd be a little
Nah,
more. I know.
nah.
You just
Because both times I started like cooking and doing something else because I have such a hard time just sitting and watching a movie.
yeah.
And so it's like I would miss something, which is why I watched it again because I'm like, well, I need to make sure I didn't miss anything.
I'm 100% with you on that. 100%. So yeah, you gave it a 6. I was incredibly nice, which I'm usually not, and I bumped it to a 7. Um, I mean, I guess at the end of it, would you recommend it? Would you recommend anybody watch
Yeah,
this? You would?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I would say like I wouldn't call it a favorite film, but I enjoyed watching it, and I'd say yeah, give it a watch. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird because I usually look at things and I'm like, would I go back and watch it again? And my gut would tell me like, nah, been there, done that with this. Like I seen
Mhm.
it. But dude, I love practical effects, and the fact that boar was as good as it was, I'm like, I would watch that again to just like
Or at
see what
least
I missed.
from it.
Yeah. So
Like watch the ending scene again and tell me if I'm crazy.
I definitely think this is like, if you like dumb, gory horror movies, this is one of them. Get a couple friends, grab some burritos or Chinese takeout or
Is that what
za.
you ate when you watched this? Because you said the same thing twice.
No, I did. I don't think I ate it all while I was watching this. And so I think it was just one of those things that I'm like, grab something to eat, chill out, and take the 90 minutes to watch it. And I don't think you'll regret it. It's not one of those where I see a lot of reviews on horror movies where people are like atmospheric horror movies, and they're like, nothing happened, 1 out of 5, and it's like, no, stuff happens in it, but it's kind of like dumb things, and
Seeing
it's
her.
yeah, it's fun, gory horror stuff. So I would totally recommend it. I give it a 7 out of 10. You got a 6 out of 10. You recommend it too.
Mhm.
It's available on Shudder. We watched it there, but it's available on other platforms too. So, do you have any final thoughts, complaints,
Uh,
praises?
no, no, it was good.
All right. Should we wrap?
Let's wrap it up.
Okay, we'll wrap it there. Well, we're hoping to do this weekly. We're gonna watch a horror movie every week. We're gonna be back here, live stream it. Not necessarily Thursday. I don't know if we figured out a day yet. We'll figure it out.
Right, get there.
But hopefully once a week we're gonna watch a horror movie. We'll be here to live stream it, and
Hey
I
Matt,
don't know. Yeah.
talk horror to me.
Talk. Oh, oof. I can do that. I can do that in 1 week's time. In 1 week's time, I can talk horror to you.
Sounds good.
But other than that, we'll wrap it there, and I guess we'll tell everybody, stay scary. I don't know. I got to work out a catchphrase. Who knows? That's awful. All right.